Well, hello friends, Marcus D coming at you with another brand new video I'm producing for the Great Questions group. The title of this is actually Science and Origins Part 5. The specific title is Tiny Hands, as you can see by the photo that I used for the title of this picture, or this video, the picture that I used for the, what do they call that? The thumbnail for this video, I guess is what they use. But before I even get going, I wanted to, you may have noticed perhaps a little bit louder, clearer, I trust, audio on this. And that is actually, folks, because I recently was able to purchase a new broadcasting mic. And there it is. It's actually one that's called the Blue Yeti. It's very nice. It's quite heavy and substantial. That's why I've got these headphones in this time, because I'm able to actually monitor this. And so, in my continuing attempts to, enhance your listening pleasure as I share this information with you folks on these videos, I hope this will contribute to that for you guys. So I'm pretty excited about it. And so anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. I actually, once again, was preempted on my intended topic for part 5 of this series that I've started on science and origins. Kind of like I was with the previous one. I had intended to do the next law, which is called cause and effect, or causality, which I will be doing, but I was preempted last time by some information that all of a sudden, if you've been following along, was on just amazing statistics on probability and how that relates to the complexity of life. And this one actually happened because I came across an article that, to be frank with you, I kind of forgot about. And it was actually published in April of 2000 by Focus on the Family. Actually, the picture kind of went around on the internet, and it came to the attention of a lot of different organizations. But actually, this was in my father's materials. I've been going through, I have to go through my dad's affairs and effects now that he's passed on. Boy, I'll tell you folks, just as a little aside, I've known it, I've taught it, I've tried to live it, but it was really underscored the day my dad passed away. That the truth of the scriptural verse, but the obvious reality that we come into this world with nothing. It's kind of interesting how that ties into this topic here, with birth. But we leave this world with nothing because, he went to the hospital that morning in the ambulance. If you've heard the video I've done on the last 10 days of his life, and about the details there. But of course, he passed away that Wednesday, the 22nd. It was early in the morning on the 23rd, 12:35 a.m., something like that. But anyway, when I came home, my dad had passed away, and the things in the house, because of course him living with me, that were all his, were all still here, and of course he was gone. And I know that sounds very elementary, but I'm telling you, it really hit me, really had an impact on me, and my understanding, my appreciation of that reality is on a whole new level that it's never been on before. But anyway, let's get to this topic at hand, because why I wanted to actually, when I came across it again, I used to have a soft copy of this. And I actually sent it out back then to my whole Amway team and my Crossline friends. And so it was circulating around. But to be frank with you, I'd forgotten about it. And it was just as moving when I saw it this time as it was when I saw it originally. And it kind of ties into, this whole dynamic of where did we come from? Science and origins. If you've been following along on these videos, one of the things I talk about quite often, and I have talked about, is how my eyes were opened. Again, that this was my personal journey that I was doing. I never did this because my intent was to teach it. I was doing this for myself. You've heard me talk about that. And so much of it was my eyes being opened to things that were obvious right in front of me. And one of those obvious things that, folks, we tend to take for granted is this amazing ability that God has given us to reproduce, to create offspring. And it's a miraculous process. And this bears that out. And what is really going on there, okay? And how does that happen? How can that possibly happen, all right? And so, again, this video topic, tiny hands, in the thumbnail that they use, or I published, I was just trying to focus in on this tiny little hand. But the rest of the story is, okay, actually it was the hand of a baby, a 21-week-old preborn baby. All right, going through this very, very unique operation. All right, and actually this is the article. But what I want to do is I want to show you the whole picture. All right, and this is an amazing picture. And actually, this is online. You can go online if you look up. The title of it is "Hand of Hope." All right, and there's actually a similar picture, but okay. These are the surgeon's fingers that I'm going to be taught. This is the mom's womb, or the uterus. The little baby, 21-week-old baby, is inside this womb, and I'm going to talk about what's going on with this. But when the surgeon was in the process of doing this, as I'll explain, this little baby, his little hand reached out and grabbed the surgeon's finger, folks. All right? So, again, this is, again, it's a little baby, all right? And let me just read you this article, all right? And I was like, wow, all right? But the one that you can, the one that's online, it actually shows the surgeon's other hand. You can see it just a little bit down in here, but it's actually holding the womb on this side. And so it's even more, has even a little more of an impact. But let me read this to you really quickly, all right? I'm going to turn the light up just a little bit here. Okay? And again, April 2000, focus on the family. And this is James Dobson writing this. Take a good look at the stunning photograph reproduced below. It was taken in the operating room during a delicate surgery on the spine of a baby boy who was still in his mother's uterus. His name is Samuel Alexander Armas, who is alive today and is 23, not surprisingly, since we're in 2023. I hope you'll never forget the story. And I'd like to add, I certainly never, I don't want to forget the picture, right? I'm glad I came across it again. I did forget it. That's part of the reason why the scripture constantly tells us to remind ourselves of these things, all right? And that's what I wanted to do here. All right, this incredible photo was called to my attention by a friend, Beth Fisher, who had come across it recently while searching the web. It was accompanied by an anonymous commentary written by someone who must have been deeply affected by the picture. I took the liberty of editing his or her statement for clarity and adding some of the factual information found in other publications. I hope you will read the following words with your head and with your heart. Samuel's story. What you are witnessing should be designated Picture of the Year or perhaps Picture of the Decade. It won't be. Most people will never get the opportunity to see it. Well, thank goodness, because of the web and email and everything else, a lot of people did, okay? Anyway, the photo depicts a 21-week-old preborn baby who was being operated on by a surgeon named Joseph Bruner. It is his finger in the photo. The baby had been diagnosed with spina bifida, which leaves the spinal cord exposed after it fails to develop properly. Unless the gap was closed to protect his nervous system, serious brain damage would likely have occurred before birth. There was no time to lose. Unfortunately, the baby was too immature to survive outside the womb, and corrective surgery had never been performed on a baby this young. However, the parents, Julie and Alex Armas, have a deep faith. She is an obstetrics nurse in Atlanta who had heard through the internet of Dr. Bruner's work at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. He and his team pioneered these delicate operations. Despite the fact that the procedure had not yet been endorsed by or in the medical journals, The decision was made to attempt it on behalf of little Samuel. Apparently, it has been now, all right? I was talking to a friend of mine who is in the medical industry, and she told me that it's used quite often now. To operate on such a tiny baby required special miniature instruments to be created. The sutures used, for example, were less than the thickness of a human hair. A cesarean section was then performed to lift the uterus gently from Julie's body, permitting the surgeon to make a small incision through which the operation could be performed. Then it happened. As Dr. Brunner was probing the opening, the baby's fully developed hand wrapped itself around the finger of the surgeon. The photograph captures that amazing moment with perfect clarity. The picture should be shown on every newscast and run in every newspaper in America. Every teenager should also see it. Why? Because it is an unmistakable reminder that growing in the womb of each mother is a baby, not a blob of tissue or a product of conception. A preborn baby is full, or a product of conception, period. Okay, a preborn baby is fully human from the moment of conception. What we see in the photograph expresses that understanding better than 1,000 words. Little Samuel's mother was quoted as saying she and her husband wept for days when they saw the picture. She said, this photo reminds me, that this pregnancy wasn't about a disability or illness. It's about a little person, okay? That's what human pregnancy and birth are about. A tiny human being with an eternal soul being formed in the image of God. And that's what the media elite fails to comprehend. That's also why they don't want people to see the incredible picture of this precious baby grasping the hand of his physician. I pray that it will not be hidden forever. Well, the good news is it wasn't, and it hasn't been. And, that's one of the great things about technology is we now can see what's going on. And that's kind of, folks, that's what I want to take a few moments and just wrap this up by talking about, again, in a very, very simple way, what is actually going on in the womb. I was taught, without getting into a lot of detail, because I don't have time to develop that topic, but many of you may have been taught a concept in school. The technical term was ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, which basically means, the development of a baby, they use the term fetus, or as a matter of fact, when you go online and if you look up this picture and you look at the articles, it's amazing. Controversy, there's a controversy, the fetus, they keep calling it the fetus. And I'm like, why is there controversy? All right? There shouldn't be any controversy. Well, I was taught in school, perhaps some of you were, that the baby actually goes through, or they use all these different terms, conceptus, the fetus, but it goes through, it recapitulates or repeats its evolutionary process. It starts off as a fish, a single-cell organism in the soup, and then it becomes a multi-cell organism, and then it becomes a fish, and then it's got these little gill slits, and what it does is it goes through this evolutionary, then it's a monkey with a little tail, and then it finally becomes human. And so there's no problem killing it before it becomes human. All right? Well, folks, any knowledgeable biologist, any knowledgeable embryologist, or anybody that understands anything about DNA will know that is completely fallacious. It's been disproved completely. All right. As a matter of fact, the guy that came up with that, again, was one of Darwin's contemporaries, and he was formulating that, a guy by the name of Haeckel. He was a German, and he came up with this concept. It's been proven that the photos they used the pictures they drew were doctored up. But let's just go back again to the hard science. What happens? All right. You have human DNA from the father. You have human DNA from the mother. All right. Human DNA, the blueprint, the instructions, all right, that come together, all right? Half from the father, half from the mother. And from that moment, okay, the moment of conception, the genetic code from both parents comes together and creates the instruction manual for a brand new human being. From that moment, the eye color, the skin color, the hair color, whether it's curly, the gender, male or female, height, weight, all those things are already programmed in 100% right from the get-go. That is the scientific facts, folks. But so the argument is, well, when is it really human? It's human from the moment of conception. All right. There's never any monkey DNA in there. There's never any fish DNA in there. It's human DNA. All right. And so it's human right from the get-go. And again, if we take a biblical perspective, there's a soul attached to that human being right at the very beginning. But here's what's amazing. All right. You stop and think about this. Okay. The average human being, all right, it's been estimated 100 trillion cells that compose these bodies of ours, that make up all the various components, approximately 400 different varieties. We have cells, specific cells that make up our bones, that make up our muscles, that make up our nerves, that make up our heart, that make up our stomach, that make up our eyes, the different components of our eyes, okay? And on and on and on it goes, all right? Now, here's what's amazing. You have one fertilized egg, okay? An ovum then, it's called an ovum once it's fertilized, with all that genetic capability. Now, it's one cell, but then what starts to happen? It begins to divide. And not only that, as it begins to divide, it begins to change the type of cell it is. All of a sudden, and all this is encoded in there. All of a sudden, these little as these cells continue to divide and divide, then all of a sudden these become bone cells and these become nerve cells. And they're told to, okay, we need this amount of these. You guys, all of a sudden, you go over here, you start to put the skeletal structure together. You guys get together and you turn into a stomach cell, and you turn into a liver cell, and you turn into a kidney cell. And not just a kidney cell, but the components of the kidney. All right, all those little aspects. All right, all the little nephrons that are in there, all the little tubules. Then you've got your lungs, you've got the heart, you've got all these different that all come from this one cell. And so as they're dividing, they're turning into different kinds of cells. And they're being instructed as to where to go. And now you guys all get together over here and you begin to start forming a heart. And you begin to form, and again, folks, it's a miracle what is really going on there. And of course, we're oblivious to it all. Mom and dad don't know what's going on. Mom can feel some stuff going on in there, but all this is being done on autopilot, folks. All right. It's interesting. There's a very powerful verse in the scriptures. There's a lot of them. But this is actually in the 139th Psalm. All right. And as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to go over here because I wrote it down. All right. It talks about this is Psalm 139 verses 13 and 14. For you created my inmost being. Talking about God. The psalmist is actually, declaring this to God. You created my inmost beings. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, filled with wonder, filled with awe, and I know that full well. And folks, all we got to do is just contemplate that. All right. And I didn't even actually talk about all the things that go on in the mother. I mean, that's just scratching the surface. All right. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And how all those things happen. All right. And most of the time, talking about this little Samuel here every once in a while, because of all these generations upon generations upon generations, and the curse and the law of decay and the the radiation, the cosmic radiation. We are degraded. The environment is degraded. All right. We have these little even though the DNA. And I'm gonna do a video just on DNA. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the DNA with these molecular machines that go up and down the DNA column and correct the errors. It's called editase. These scientists have studied. It's the most amazing things. They go up and down and they're checking for errors. These molecular machines just in the DNA. It's unbelievably complex. But again, it's 100% human from the moment of conception. And so again, human life is, by all of our laws is protected. And so there's really no argument. If you're not really sure. Well, if you're not sure, the unborn child should be protected. And as I've told you before, as my eyes were open to these things, as I began to understand what was really going on, and the odds of that happening, like in the previous video I just did, the odds of all these things happening by themselves, by chance, how could all these parts, how could all these cells begin to form all these organs and put them in the right place and connect them all together? Folks, do you realize, listen to this, do you realize we have, in our human brain, and I think I've talked about this on various videos. I know I did one specifically talking about of arrowheads and brains, and I think I actually elaborate on this in there, but I'm going to elaborate on it right now as I close this out. All right? We have nerves in our body that are connected to all these various organs. All right? As a matter of fact, we have a nerve hub in our abdomen called the solar plexus because it radiates out like a sun, and it's connected to all these internal organs, all the processes that are going on inside of us. All right? And all this input is going up our spinal column and hits our brain. All right? And in the bottom part of our brain, all right, what they call the brain stem, there is an autopilot system built into it. Our brain receives 100 million sensory inputs a second. 100 million sensory inputs a second from all these different nerves come up our spinal column and hit the base of the brain. And what ends up happening, most of these are, it's called our autonomic nervous system. It's the autopilot that runs these bodies. Because you and I, you and I don't have to think about, well, how much blood flow do we need? What's our temperature doing? How are we digesting our food? Which cells need this type of nutrient and that type of nutrient? On and on and on and on it goes. All these different, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced. It's incredible what is going on inside of us. That just doesn't run on. In one sense, it doesn't run on autopilot. All these systems need to be monitored, and they are monitored by the human brain, but the brain stem. And what it does is it filters all of this sensory input out, and it monitors and it modulates and it controls everything that's going on in the body, so that you and I don't have to. It's very, very few of those sensory inputs go to our brain. And the brainstem knows how to sort it out. And yeah, this needs to go up so that we can consciously be aware of certain things. Folks, I was reading those stats about, 10 to this power, 10 to that power, that this stuff could have happened by chance. There's no way it could happen by chance. Not in, and again, I don't want to reiterate what I said in those, but you see, when I read that stuff, it builds my faith. All right. I'm not, I've said this over, I'm not trying to sell people on this. We all got to take care of our own future. The evidence is enormous, and it is absolutely clear that we're all manufactured. All right. There's an unseen being of unbelievable capability, unbelievable power, able to manipulate that power and actually create physical things from unseen power. That's the whole topic of the atoms. Go back to the Great Questions Chronicles and listen to the video I did on the Creator and the Sustainer, for that matter, the basic building blocks of the cosmos. and then everything, which are the atoms, and then everything built up on top of it. These bodies are unbelievably, 100 trillion living cells, each and every one of them is highly complex. It defies our understanding. And so again, folks, I mean, what it does is it points out the fact that there is indeed a God, there's a creator. And what it does for me is it confirms the reality that we have something far, far, far better, far greater, lasting, eternal, perfect that is coming. That is why this God made us, as I said that. In this life here, and I'm going to wrap this video up with saying something I've said over and over again, but we can't hear it enough. This life ultimately is about setting ourselves up for what's next. And we don't do that just by flying by the seat of our pants. We don't do that just living day by day, whatever. This is my life. I can do whatever I want with it. I mean, that's what people want to think. Rock and roll, man. Okay, but we're going to find out that's not the deal. I mean, come on, man. We're living in a body we can't even control. Look, we don't even know what's going on inside. I remember one time somebody said, you keep hearing, spleen, okay, and somebody ruptured their spleen. I'm like, what's a spleen? So I'm looking it up online. Here's this little organ in there. It kind of looks like a plum, has something to do with it. I don't even remember. I was kind of studying it, but it's been in there chugging away in me for 63 years. Okay, I didn't make it. I don't even know what it does. It's in there doing its thing, so Marcus D can stay alive for the time being. Not to mention my heart and all the other things that are going on. 60,000 miles of blood vessels. A heart that beats 24/7, 4 paper-thin hinges. And if that puppy shuts down like it did on my dad, we're out of here. We're out of here. One moment, we're out of here. We take it for granted. We think we're immortal. There's a Christian contemporary song. I hear these young, it's upbeat thing. I listen to it at the gym. We pretend like we're immortal. That's what it says. We pretend like we're immortal. We think, oh man, I'm invincible, whatever. No way, man. No way. Nobody gets out of here alive. And unless the rapture comes, that's another topic. Okay. But anyway, all right. Tiny hands, human from the point of conception, and the miraculous process that knits a human being together. I didn't even talk about the birthing process, which is unbelievable. What goes on in the mom? I mean, the way the placenta works, which is like a lung. The mother's blood in the supply to feed the baby comes through, but doesn't connect because the blood types are different, and it could kill both the mother and the baby if the blood commingled. So this intricate system is developed just with that. It's unbelievable. I mean, I just scratched the surface of this stuff. And you know what? I mean, it just grounds me. I believe in God. I said this now. I believe in God. I don't believe in God. No, it doesn't matter what we believe. Is he there? Does the evidence point to the fact he's there? And it does, overwhelmingly. And you can go, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. Well, that's fine. I did want to deal with it because I wanted an adequate cause for something beyond this life and something way better. And we have that. Okay. So anyway, I enjoy sharing this stuff with you. It gets you thinking, gets me thinking. I love talking about it because it anchors me, like I said. And, I want to know as much about this stuff before I leave this life as I can because it honors this great God. And like I said, it builds our faith and it gives us hope. Okay. Hope, the hand of hope. What a great way to end. So anyway, guys, until next time, Marcus D. Signing off. Praying God's blessing over each and every one of y'all. But I often signed off, have a wonder-filled day, that God would continue to open our eyes to look around and just see the miracle that we live in day by day, moment by moment. That we need to be thankful for, thank him for. Okay, so anyway, God bless you. Until next time, Marcus D., as I said, signing off. Bye-bye now.